Okay, so what does feminism mean to you, Ilse?
It's a huge subject, and of course, being the age that I am and born and come into my own in the 60s, feminism was one of the driving forces of who I became as a woman. So much of my early life was concerned about who I am, how do I express that identity, how do I differentiate myself from the rest of the male population, what is the path that I take. So those questions, eventually they got answered, as you go along in life. But my interest and my drive in feminism waxes and wanes as I see the need. And right now, not so much in my own life, but I see a real falling off of an interest, in fact, an abhorrence for feminism in young women, and that is very upsetting. In fact, I think it's quite terrifying, because it means in a lot of ways that some of the battles that we started to fight, young women are very complacent with. It also means that we're folding into an androcentric universe.
So why do you think young women today are complacent?
I don't really know. I think part of it is that, as I said, I think they think that many of the battles have been won.
What drives you to make your art?
It's mainly curiosity. It's just a very simple question about what if, or how would this be, or there's also, technical questions in terms of things that I might be interested in. For instance, the piece that is going to be shown at the F word. At that point, I was very interested in text. I was very interested in materials. I was interested in the skin. I was interested in hair. I was interested in fabric being a stand-in for skin. I was interested in the form of the body and what it takes to suggest a body. I'm still interested in that, and that's become true in different pieces. And in that particular piece, I was also very much interested in how language shapes women's consciousness, and how we take language in, how we assimilate it, and how that influences us in that's a very crude way of putting it.
But and so in your piece, the language that you're referencing comes from pulp romance novels.
It does. It's just words picked at random from pulp romance novels.
Mm-hmm.
And my interest in it was that the words, they could be potent, but strung together, they really there's a broken meaning there. You cannot make them coherent. And that was what was interesting to me in that piece, is the fact that it is very fragmented. There is no coherence there. And language works works in many ways. One of the ways that I was interested in looking at before that piece in a previous work was the language as it's used in a very everyday fashion, in tales, folk tales, stories. I had done some research on that. And then, of course, I ran into some of the more moralistic 19th century fairy tales, Hans Christian Andersen's work, and I did a piece called The Red Shoes that came from that.
Do you think that the construction of female identity and sexuality that comes through the words in those novels still holds sway for women of all ages now, and then specifically young women now?
I think it does. I think it does for all of us in a way, because what it does is that kind of language invites the fantasy of romance. And I think, we all grew up with that. In many cultures, we're conditioned to be the objects of admiration. We are conditioned and expected to be objects for men to consume, to be rather crude about it. But I think that is an underlying theme that runs throughout.
So I guess there's work for feminism to be done in the 21st century?
Oh, tons. Tons! We need more feminists. We need more women who are conscious. And I think it's quite My concern is not for the lack of feminist consciousness in the rest of the world. My concern is for the ebbing of feminist consciousness in our privileged North American culture, as if it doesn't matter anymore, and as I've said before, as if all those battles have been won. And what that brings to mind is that there is a certain blindness there in terms of the kinds of issues that still have to be addressed and the battles that still need to be fought.
Or is it still fraught with pitfalls as we age?
Oh, I think it's still fraught with pitfalls. I know with myself, I'm finding that I look in the mirror and there's an old woman who lives there. I don't know how she got there, but she wasn't there a few years ago. And I have that to deal with. And in a culture where aging is okay as long as you look good, you're slim, you're well tanned, you are fit, you're well fed, and you're privileged, then you're fine. But if you age in any other fashion, there is no reflection. Once again, as there's no reflection for young women, there's no reflection for older women to age as we wish or as we come to age.
What would you say your challenges are as a woman artist in the 21st century?
Well, the current time to keep making and to keep showing, particularly in British Columbia, where we've had so many cuts in our funding. It's supposedly being restored partially, but certainly not to the levels that we were struggling with even in 2008.
Do you think one could say that funding cuts perhaps are a form of silencing?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.